In the previous part of this episode, we talked about addition, and in this part of the episode, I would like to talk about subtraction. Subtraction is the action of taking objects away from a pile. For example, if I asked you to subtract 3 from 7, the action that I'm describing by that is taking a pile of 7 objects and removing 3 of those objects from the pile. So from that 7, I would take these 3 away, and I would look at how many have been left behind. From that original pile of 7, if I remove 3 objects, then 4 objects are left. And so the result of subtracting 3 from 7, the result of that would be 4. Now, there are a couple of different ways to subtract objects, and the first way is just to use a counting technique similar to what we did here. If, for example, someone asked me to subtract 4 units from 6 units, I would start with a pile of 6 objects. And then I would remove 4 objects from that pile. And I would count how many objects remained after removing 4. So if I start with 6 and remove 4, then what is left from that is 2 units. You can also subtract using a number line. On a number line, if I want to subtract 4 from 6, then on a number line, I would start at 6, then I would go 4 units to the left. If I drew our number line with 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and 6, for example, marked on it, then to subtract 4 units from 6, I would start at 6 and go 1, 2, 3, 4 units to the left. And on the number line, I have found myself at a position of 2, and so that will tell me that the result is 2. Now notice that subtraction on a number line is almost exactly opposite addition on a number line. When we were adding together two numbers on the number line, we moved to the right. Whereas when we are subtracting numbers on a number line, we are moving to the left. This is because when you subtract, the number goes down in value. But when you add, the number gets larger and goes up in value. Another big difference between subtraction and addition on a number line is that the order in this case really does matter. When we are adding two numbers together, for example, if we were adding together 2 and 4, we noticed that we could start on the number line at 2 and move 4 spaces to the right, or we could start on the number line at 4 and move 2 spaces to the right. No matter which we did, we got exactly the same answer. But when you are subtracting, the order of the numbers really does matter. Because if I try to do the subtraction in the other order, if I try to start at 4, for example, and move 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 units to the left, then I can see I'm getting a totally different answer than the 2 that I got before. So this would not be the correct way to subtract two numbers on the number line. If I am subtracting 4 from 6, I start with the number that I'm taking away from. I'm starting with 6, and then the number I'm taking away, 4, is how many units I move to the left. It's also possible to subtract using a calculator. And once again, this is really useful if you're subtracting large numbers. If I want to subtract on a calculator, for example, if I want to subtract 4 units from 6, then I would start with my pile of 6 objects. I would type 6 into the calculator first, and then I would press this symbol here on the bottom right, this horizontal bar. This is the minus sign. And then from 6, I would minus 4. 6 minus 4. And hit the equal symbol. And this is giving me a result of 2 as well. Now what we've just typed into the calculator shows us the symbol that is used for subtraction. The symbol that's used for subtraction is a straight horizontal bar. This is called the minus sign. For example, if you see notation like this, 17 minus 3, this is saying to subtract or take away 3 from 17. Start with a pile of 17 objects and then remove 3 objects from that pile. I could start on the number line with 17 objects, and then I could move 3 units to the left to take away 3 objects from that pile of 17. So I take away one object, and now I'm down to 16. I take away another object, and now I'm down to 15. I take away the third object, and now I'm down to 14. So 17 minus 3 gives me a result of 14 units. I could also say 9 minus 5. 9 minus 5. So this is asking me to take a pile of 9 objects and subtract 5 of those objects. To subtract 5 from 9. So I could think about this, for example, by counting. I could start with a pile of 9 objects, and then I could remove 5 of those objects. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then I could count how many objects I have left. And I have 1, 2, 3, 4 objects left if I subtract 5 from 9. Now, there are a couple of English words that are used to represent subtraction. For example, if you hear the word minus, that is asking you to subtract. If you hear the word difference, that is used to tell you to subtract. If you hear the words less than, that is also a common way to be instructed to subtract. So for example, if someone says, what is 13 minus 4? They're asking you to take a pile of 13 objects and remove 4 of those objects. So in the calculator, for example, I could type in 13 minus 4 equals sign, result 9. Or someone could say, what is the difference? The difference between 8 and 3. This is a way to ask you what happens if you have 8 objects and remove 3 of them. What's the difference between having 8 objects and having 3 objects? If I have 8 objects to begin with, and I remove 3 of those and count what's left, then I have 5 objects between 8 and 3. So my result here would be 5 units. Let me give you some examples of situations where subtraction would be used in the real world. Suppose that I have $235 in my bank account. Then I go in and I withdraw and I remove some of that money. Specifically, I remove $105. What's left in my bank account after I make that withdrawal? To answer that question, I can take $235 and I could subtract the amount that I withdrew. 235 minus 105, the difference between 235 and positive 105, I can calculate this quantity using a calculator, and if I do that, I get 130 units. Here, $130 will be left in my bank account after I make this withdrawal. For another example, suppose that I have a beam of wood, and the beam of wood is 4 feet long. I then go into this beam of wood and I cut off a portion that is 3 feet long. The question is, if I have a 4-foot beam and then I remove 3 feet, how much is left? In other words, what is the length of this little portion? To answer this question, I can take 4 units and I can subtract or remove 3 units. If I take 4 feet and remove 3 feet, then what I have left is 1 foot of length on this beam from 4 minus 3. 1 foot of beam is left. For an example where I would subtract multiple numbers, suppose that I start out with 14 cookies. I then give 2 cookies to one of my friends and 4 cookies to another friend who I evidently like more than the first friend. How many cookies will I have left over for myself if I give this amount away? So if I start with 14 and I give away and remove 2 from what I have, that's 14 minus 2. Then if I give away another 4, 14 minus 2 minus 4 would be the amount that I have left. So if I do this, for example, in the calculator, I have 14 minus 2 minus 4 equals, in total, 8 cookies are left for me to eat.